the Fan3Cast, dishing out the hottest NASCAR news and views while celebrating the Three's historic comeback. Here are your hosts, Michael Metzger and Jason Schultz. This is, as you just heard, the Fan3Cast. This is a brand new take on a NASCAR podcast. Jason and I will be going through weekly, well, or until we get bored with it. But the name is a very unique one, Jason. Maybe you could take us through maybe a little bit of what our thinking was when we came up with that.
Well, we didn't want to be just any old podcast. We wanted to be something different, something unique. So we came up with a Fan3Cast, which gives our fan perspective. It'll put a spin on the historic comeback of Austin Dillon driving number 3 in the Sprint Cup Series this year. So we're going to incorporate that in many ways into our show by doing a lot of three of something, three of our favorite, three of the drivers we're looking forward to seeing race, or three guys who will be strong in a particular race. So you'll get to hear our fan perspective incorporated with Austin Dillon's number 3 coming back to the Sprint Cup Series, and it sounds exciting to me. I hope everyone listening agrees with that.
It is a very exciting time to be around NASCAR, and I'll kind of echo what Jason said. You know, it's a perfect time to bring out something new and kind of, go with the excitement and the underlying change that's going on with NASCAR. So we'll be doing this every week, like I said. This edition is actually going to be a little different. We do, believe it or not, we did structure kind of an outline of how we'll be doing them going forward. But this week, since it's the start of the season, racing hasn't happened yet, we're going to try to get our preview in here, covering all 3 series, but primarily the Sprint Cup Series. And then we're going to have some discussions on a couple other items, and then give you a preview of what to expect with the Sprint Unlimited, which takes place this Saturday. With the 2014 season starting, what we can do right now, Jason, is kind of go through what we're going to do for the year. I know you've signed up with a lot of different websites that you're working with and helping out with, and in addition, you're going to some cool racetracks. Since I brought up the question, I'm going to jump in there and go first. I'll be running Start and Park blog like I normally do. New for this year is not only the Fancast, but we're also kind of redoing everything across the board. You're going to see a lot more emphasis on, our core values of news, views, and stats. And it's going to be a lot of fun stuff that I was looking at doing prior, but I didn't feel that I had the means to. And then also, a big thing for me is history. I'm going to try to hammer home the history of NASCAR, which is something I really love. And we're going to get into, when we talk about the new chase format a little later on, Jason and I are going to bump heads because of that exact fact. But the big plans for Start and Park blog is to hopefully get down to Pocono. I say down because we're based in New York. And then get out to Michigan for a race. So hoping to go to 3 this year. So Jason, maybe you can share with everyone a little bit of your plans.
Well, I'm really excited to get started in 2014. It's a fresh start, a new chance, and lots of new opportunities. My plan to go attack the new season is I'm doing a bunch of different articles. You can see everything from race recaps to any opinion articles on a variety of websites. I can't name them all right now, but you'll definitely see my work out there. As well as I'm working on these really cool, easy-to-read race schedules for fans, so it's easier to find all the information when the cars will be on track each weekend. So you'll want to stay tuned on my Twitter handle at NASCAR Jason, and you'll see all those come up throughout the year. As well as I'll be doing social media for a few different websites for SpeedwayMedia.com. You can follow them at Speedway Media. When the season gets rolling, I have a bunch of cool things planned out for them to get fans incorporated and to get just some excitement going with the racing. In addition to that, actually, this is the first time I'm saying this out to the public, but I'll be the Truck Series Twitter reporter for Popular Speed, so you'll want to follow them at Popular Speed, and I will be tweeting everything trucky, if that's even a word, but everything has to do with the truck. You can see it, catch it right there. I will also be doing just an overall big social media push. You can see all my work and see a bunch of different cool things I'll be doing through social media on my Twitter. And the races I plan on attending 3 races this year. I'm definitely going to be at Darlington in April, as well as Dover in June. And I'm hoping to get to a chase race right now up between Martinsville and New Hampshire. Can't make it out to any of the races Mike's going to this year, but we'll probably shoot again for that for 2015.
Now, not to float your ego too much, but one of your schedules was retweeted, I should say, by someone high up there, right?
Yeah, about 2/3 of the Fox Sports broadcasting retweeted it. My Twitter went absolutely crazy on Monday. It was just Mike Joy and Larry Mack. Mike did it about 3 different times, tweeting my schedule out, which is really cool to get some exposure. And he's really big and has a big following, so it's cool to see fans reacting through that. And I just was really excited to share the schedule because it's so easy to follow. He just goes down these columns, and I know Mike will be using it to keep track of everything, and I hope fans will too.
Yeah, with the responses that you got on Twitter, you only have to imagine what like Brad Keselowski and all of them go through, because I know I had a couple things retweeted by Larry McReynolds, and my Twitter blew up, and man, I can only imagine these guys, their phones would probably vibrate off their desks.
Yeah, it's really crazy just seeing how having to scroll through a bunch of mentions. I don't mind it. I absolutely love to have to do that every day, one day, but it's just really something very unique.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like, hey, hooray, people are actually, paying attention to me. And actually, Jason, that comes up with one of the features that we're going to have featured on the Fan3Cast is going to be a tweet of the week. So, again, I'm going to play that part of I brought it up, so I'm going to jump in there first with mine. But I didn't have anything in particular, and actually there was little to no words on the tweet, but it was done by the NASCAR K&N series, and it was actually just a picture of the Daytona wall that says Daytona, about a week out from when they're going to be doing those races, the duel on the beach, or the battle on the beach, sorry, and it just kind of said it all. It was like the calm before the storm. So I thought that was a very appropriate tweet. Retweeted it out there when it first happened, but that's my contribution to the tweet of the week. Kind of the calm before we jump into the storm of speed weeks.
Yeah, we're getting right down to the wire. It's really coming close, and a week of racing is everything a fan dreams of, and for it to finally be here for the 2014 season is extremely exciting. My tweet has to do with Daytona 2. I saw from Ricky Stenhouse's crew chief, Mike Kelly. He tweeted out today, not a picture, but he says he was getting ready to go down to Daytona, and he mentioned how he's worked a lifetime for a chance at the Daytona 500, and this is his first year as Ricky's crew chief, so he'll be in his first 500 calling it for Ricky, and he wants to see the Daytona 500 trophy in the office, and that just goes to show how big this race is, how big the trophy is, and how much it represents. And it got me excited for Daytona, and I know all these crews and teams and drivers are excited to finally get rolling this season. And it's all going to start with points races in 2 Fridays at the Camp Rome Truck.
Yeah, that number 17 car, Roush Fenway Racing, is not one that's unfamiliar with the Daytona victory lane. Matt Kenseth has 2 victories in the Daytona 500, and also the number 17, for historical purposes, was run by Darrell Waltrip when he picked up the 1989 Daytona 500 victory. Now,
I remember the last time the 17 was the victory lane, Juan Pablo Montoya was hitting a jet dryer, so if we see fire in the 500, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is right around the corner.
That actually brings up a good point. They have a special coming out. I believe it's going to be shown on Friday, Valentine's Day, so, a good time to spend with the wife or girlfriend. But they're going to have one of those the day specials on that Daytona 500 when NASCAR goes prime time. It's actually going to be pretty cool, because I remember a lot of it, but I'm sure they'll show a lot of cool stuff that I didn't know happened.
Yeah, that was a wild, wet, crazy, fiery night, and reliving it will probably bring some memories back too. I know it'll bring memories back to us, but a lot of fans too. Now,
you said a little while ago that the first points-paying race is the Camping World Truck Series. It's going to be run not this Friday, but next Friday, and that's actually where we're going to lead off our 2014 previews. Quick disclaimer on that. We'll touch on the Nationwide and Camping World Truck Series from time to time, but our primary focus, just getting it out there, full disclosure, is going to be the Sprint Cup Series. So with that in mind, we're going to kind of touch on both the Truck and Nationwide Series, and then we'll go a little dig a little deeper, so to speak, with the Sprint Cup Series. So, trucks, we're just going to do pick the champions, right, Jason?
Oh, yes.
All right, so my champion for 2014, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go with a veteran of the series who's been there. He's won races. He's shown that he can run up front. You know, his biggest thing is it always seems like his team does not get the sponsorship that it fully needs, or at least, you know, for the other cars that they have. I am talking about Red Horse Racing's Timothy Peters. I think it's time for him to prove that, you know, he's been there long enough that kind of, I guess I looked at Crafton's championship as kind of vindication for how long he's worked in the series and, you know, been running it and, what's that word I'm looking for, loyal to the series. So I think Timothy Peters this year will get the title and make it a veterans back-to-back situation.
I had a little hesitation about thinking about Timothy Peters and what his future would be. I picked him last year for the title, and he really disappointed. He just wasn't running as well as he was in 2012, and I know he has potential, but...
Well, I'm thinking that you based it off of... I think you just based it off of that time you led every lap when you watched him at Bristol.
That was probably one of the worst Bristol races I've ever seen, just him dominating, and he's pretty good, but you never know if he needs a real big bounce back year. For my truck pick, I go with the driver entering his second full-time season in the truck series, which is Ryan Blaney. Last year, Ryan really learned a lot going through the whole schedule, gained the experience that not many drivers in the series have. A lot of the drivers who have been running full-time in that series in the past have moved on. So he's one of the veterans in that series now, which is really weird to say it since he's 20 years old. But he has most experience, and he knows how to put himself in position for wins, so I expect him to do really well this season and be able to contend for the championship and pull it off once Homestead gets closer.
Blaney's an interesting pick. See, I've always been hesitant because I feel like Brad Keselowski Racing just can't get over the hump. It seems like, you know, they constantly have pretty good trucks out there. You know, Blaney's got to win, but where's like Keselowski's win? Or I don't know.
Last year, I think a big problem for them was the transition to Ford. You saw in the Cup Series too, they were really struggling with that. And in the truck series, I think that was definitely present too. So I believe that they've got it down this year, and Ford has their game together. So I really expect them and Ryan to really have a standout season.
Yeah, you think they being like the only Ford out there, they'd have a little bit of an advantage that way. And Blaney's going to be running quite a few nationwide series races next year.
Yeah, he's got about half the schedule coming up, so that'll be exciting. And he'll be competing with the Cup drivers too in the nationwide series with Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. He can beat them, but for my nationwide championship pick, I'm going with Regan Smith. Last year was a really another learning year for him. You know, he's a veteran. He had to learn a lot. He jumped really fast out to start the season. He had just piling up the top finishes, and then by June he had about 2-point lead over his competition. That started his downfall, but I think he learned what not to do and what to do for the 2014 season. So I expect him to be much hotter, be much better, and he's still got a lot more experience than most of the guys in that series that are running for the championship. I had my money on Regan Smith, and I wonder if Mike has the same guy or he's got one of the other hotshot series.
Now, full disclosure, again, we didn't really talk about this Fan3Cast, I apologize, till about 2 minutes before we started recording. And yet somehow Jason has word for word what I wrote down about Regan Smith, my pick for the championship. Let me see here. So I said, you know, last year was a good year for him. He was in the thick of the battle until he kind of lost it mid-season. Now that he has Austin Dillon and Sam Hornish out of the way, his time to capitalize is now. You know, didn't sound quite as good as yours, Jason, but, you know, drives the same point home.
Yeah, I think he's got a strong run at it. Junior Motorsports really grew their stable. I know they're going to be strong too. So for him not to succeed will be a little puzzling, but so I really expect him to do well and to be able to show the Cup Series that he's still good enough for them, and maybe he gets a ride by 2015.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot here because I saw something recently, and I couldn't tell if it was like honestly fact or not. It was posted by NASCAR Memes, so I just take it with a giant grain of salt. But they were saying that Kelly Earnhardt, whatever Smith, whatever her name is, basically Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s sister, they were looking at getting Jeb Burton and Johanna Long in the organization to possibly run the balance of the schedule in the 5 car. So do you think this is kind of Regan Smith's maybe last year with the organization, or do you think they would continue going forward with him?
If the sponsors are there, I think they'll keep going forward with him, and I think the only way he gets out of that team is if a cup ride comes for him. I don't think he'll be forced out of that ride. He's probably one of their best drivers still. The Johanna Long, Jeb Burton, apparently it was mentioned on Sirius XM radio, so I'm not really sure if it was just being said or it was really true, but I see after Jeb Burton announced his ride for the Thorsport in the Truck Series for Daytona, I assume that's going to turn into some more races, so maybe that his part might not be as active or even involved in the junior motorsports, but Johanna Long, I think she's got to bring some sponsorship. If she does, you may see her back in the Nationwide Series, because I know she doesn't have a ride this year, and she definitely has a lot of talent, but without sponsorship, it seems as you can't do anything in NASCAR these days.
They're in a tough spot because JR Motorsports has kind of kicked away some good young talent because they haven't had sponsorship. And why are Long and Burton available? They don't have sponsorship, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays itself out. I don't know. I think it's just talk, personally.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if they can develop anything like they're talking about, but it'd be cool to see, but I just don't see it happening in 2014.
So something that will happen in 2014 is the Sprint Cup Series has a new chase format. Now, this isn't the part where we actually talk about the chase format, but I wanted to kind of skate around the outside of it right here. So we got the Camping World Truck Series and the Nationwide Series done, so we're going to get in the meat and potatoes of the Sprint Cup Series. So I'm going to do a little bit of a plug. I did previews for who I thought were going to be the top 40 drivers in the Sprint Cup Series, and I have to say I did that before the new chase came out, and so yeah, that kind of messed a lot of things up with my picks, but I went with it anyways. So what Jason and I have done, this long rambling thing will get to a point, is we've come up with 16 drivers, right? 16?
Yes.
Alright, 16 drivers that we feel are going to be in the top 16, naturally. Makes sense. List of 16 would be the top 16. We don't have it in any particular order, right? We didn't do that, right?
Yeah, it's just our list of drivers we think will be top 16. It's too hard to pick who's going to be finished where, so we just gave our overall selections of our C16 drivers for this season.
Okay, so we picked the 16. Don't be horribly offended if your driver's not in the top 16, because anything can happen. Anyone can win. Even Danica Patrick could possibly win, right? Richard Petty?
Yeah. That was a little outside comment by Richard Petty this past week, but Danica, she could win the Daytona 500 and be in the chase, so anything can happen, and our 16 drivers could all not make the chase, but that same odds are Danica does make it.
Right, yeah, so we're kind of betting on reality that she doesn't get in this year, so she's probably a big omission. I think Jeff Gordon was another one that we debated back and forth on.
Sorry, Jeff Gordon fans.
Yeah, sorry about that. But without any ado, we're just going to start off with Carl Edwards. So Edwards showed a lot of promise last year, all the way up to the chase and a little bit into the chase, and then he disappeared. So I'm hoping, or I'm betting on, because he was one of my picks. I think he was. Well, one of my suggestions, I should say. I'm thinking that him and crew chief Jimmy Fenning have done their homework over the offseason and identified what went south with them once the fall portion of the schedule showed up, because I'm still wiping the egg off of my face. I picked him for the title before the chase started based on how he was running. And then he finished, 10th, 11th, something like that?
Not that great.
Yeah, terribly. So I don't know. If you're going to do wins, he can definitely get a win, and he can definitely get into the top 16. What he does beyond that, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think he is due for a great season, and last year I think everyone expected his great season. It's really he's another one of those drivers that goes every other year who have a decent season one year, then they probably not as great next. going to turn into that season where he's due for success. He's going to contend for wins. He's going to be up there, running up front. He's got great teammates to lean off of, and I think Ford has their game together overall this season, so I think they'll see Roush and everything a little more competitive. And speaking of strong Ford teams, we have Team Penske and one of their drivers, Joey Logano, who had a strong 2013 after a little scuffles at the beginning. He got his game together, showed NASCAR he is a little more mature, and he has his game together, and he can compete, and he won at Michigan. And I expect him to continue his strength that he developed last year into this season. He will be better if he stays out of trouble. He can't get into another fight with Denny Hamlin. I know we enjoyed watching that battle go on for a few weeks, but he can't do that if he wants to be a serious title contender. And I think the key to being a title contender is staying out of trouble for him, because he can't get himself caught up with that, because I think that hurts his overall effort on the season.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Logano being in the top 16 at all. What I do disagree with is what I saw on... I saw it somewhere on the internet. Basically, someone was comparing Joey Logano's season in 2013 to Jeff Gordon's 1994 season, and how the very next year Gordon won the title, and, surmising that, hey, this could be Joey Logano's year. I think he'll be good. He won't win the title next year. I can tell you that right up front. I like that he won at Michigan, like you said, Jason. That showed that he can, still pull off a victory. I would like to see 2 or 3 wins out of him before I start even thinking that he's in title contention.
Yeah, definitely not a title contender in the next few years. The guys winning their titles are Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart. They're not the young 20-year-olds. Barry Keselowski's an exception to that. But Logano needs to gain some experience, and experience is really big these days in the Sprint Cup Series. And he doesn't go out and win, but I don't know if he has all the tools together necessary to put together a title run in the near future.
Now, you say experience, and you actually learned a fun fact about this next Cup driver that we have here on the preview, and that person is Greg Biffle. And what did you learn within the past week there, Jason, that you shared with me, and I'm going to make you share it with everyone right now?
Apparently, you read my notes beforehand, too, because I did mention this, but I was reading through the NASCAR Illustrated preview and learned that Greg Biffle is not the mid-30-year-old I thought he was. He's 44. I bet some people are listening right now definitely didn't know that either, and that surprised me. I did not think he was that old. He's older than Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart. So I thought he was really going in the middle of his career right now, but he was going towards the end, and I definitely did not know that.
It's interesting, kind of getting off the preview section of it, but just with Biffle, nobody seems to point that out. I mean, it makes sense if you think back that, he was a truck champion all those years ago. He was a Nationwide Series champion all those years ago. And to think that, he started off in the Cup Series at age, 33, that's kind of unheard of nowadays that, people start that old.
Yeah, you have Kyle Larson starting at, young 20s right now, and you don't think a 30-year-old would ever get a chance like Greg Biffle did. So the times have definitely changed, and I think Biffle's time for a championship is really closing. The door is closing. He's got to get it done if he's going to get it done. I think this is definitely a year he could get it done. He has to put everything together, get a few wins at the tracks he really excels at, and if he can do that, maybe he is closer than ever at trying to get that trifecta in the Cup Series with all 3 titles in NASCAR.
Biffle's one of those drivers that I'm going to equate him to another driver we'll be previewing in a little while, Ryan Newman. He just kind of, I couldn't think of a better word today other than he lingers. Not in a bad way or anything like that, but, you don't hear too much about him. You always look at the standings and you go, oh, Greg Biffle's in the top 10, It's not a shock to you, but at the same time, he's just there. You never really know why he's there, but he's there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he has talent, and we know he has talent. He just doesn't have the all-star talent right now that Tim Johnson has, so it's really hard to see what he's doing and see where it's going to lead him in his career. And he doesn't really stand out, and that's a really tough position he's in his career. He doesn't really stand out, but at the same time, he's not doing awful. So a big breakthrough, his final push in his career might be beneficial beneficial to the full if it's able to come in the next year or so. The driver everyone was talking about throughout the chase last year for all the wrong reasons, Boyer, after a Richmond debacle, he and his season went downhill really fast, but Boyer is back, funnier than ever, and ready to say some funny things on camera for everyone to laugh at this season. And I'm ready to hear some Boyer, but I know he's ready to get behind the wheel of a race car and get back to the form he was in his first year at WR. I know that he can win and he has potential to win, and seeing him win 2-3 races this season would not surprise me at all.
You know, the biggest thing about Boyer is, and I'm going to take a page from Marty and McGee's podcast over at ESPN, Marty Smith and Ryan McGee, is they hammered home the point that, you know, probably I'd say Spingate was more damaging to Boyer than anyone else in that whole situation, because he kind of lost for good 2-3 weeks, you know, being Clint Boyer. He wasn't any fun. He didn't look like he wanted to be there and was miserable. So I like that you opened with, you know, we got a Clint Boyer that's, you know, back to cracking jokes. He's back to having fun. And, you know, that kind of, not performance, but it would translate to performance on the track if you're there having fun instead of feeling like you're obligated to show up every week.
If Boyer's back to Boyer, he has a chance to succeed, but if he still has his mind wrapped around Richmond or he still thinks of it, he's got a tough season ahead of him. He's just got to face a clean start and really move on from that whole situation. I know it's hard to forget, but the time to move on is right now if he wants to continue being a successful race car driver.
You know, Boyer is not the only driver that's looking to forget 2013. Another one is our next preview, and that is Tony Stewart. So Stewart was having a pretty decent year. He had a win at Dover coming into August and ended up breaking his leg, as everyone probably knows at this point, doing a sprint car race right before the Watkins Glen Sprint Cup Series race. So he should be back he'll be back for the Sprint Unlimited this weekend and the Daytona 500, but I believe doctors have put it at about 80% healed from that broken leg. So we put him in the top 16, or at least my rationale for it was he's Tony Stewart. He might have a little bit of a slow start to the season, but he will get his win or wins, and then that'll definitely put him into the chase.
Yeah, you can't count Tony Stewart out. He's going to be himself. He's going to be the dominant driver he always is. He might not be as great as he's at the start of the season, but he's going to get there, and he's going to really do well once the season gets rolling. And the summertime is his time to shine, and I bet the summer months will be really, really good for him. He'll probably pick up his wins and get in the chase. And I think he's back to concentrating on himself. His team, SHR, they're settled. They've got their 4 drivers. They've got everything under control, so he's able to concentrate on himself, and I know that will be a big plus for Smoke this season.
Yeah, I would only question the expansion to 4 teams. You know, was it too much for Stewart-Haas Racing? But even beyond that, Stewart's going to come into the season with another new crew chief. This is going to be his 3rd since he won the title in 2011. And you got to wonder, you know, why can't he gel with these people, or what the situation is, and how will he gel, you know, with his team in the upcoming year?
He hasn't had that perfect crew chief we've seen him. He had Greg Desalle at JGR all those years. You want to keep looking for that same guy. You just can't find them. You search and through all these crew chiefs, can't find the same thing that worked with Greg and him. And, you know, he said this year he doesn't want Greg as his crew chief, so really can't really understand what he wants or what he's looking for in a crew chief, but it'll be interesting to see if he's going to work with Chad John. Going back to another driver was a bad 2013 and really didn't start out that well, and it finished pretty high, but Denny Hamlin had a tough go of it throughout the 2013 season after getting into some scuffles with the Logano stuff that brings back at Fontana after another incident with Joey Logano inside race car. Logano did not break his back, but Hamlin is back and ready to get back to the chase as we're predicting, and we believe he is going to be back to Denny Hamlin. He's got his top form back. He plays better than ever, and he never turned Denny Hamlin out before his back injury. So I think his next part of his career is ready to go. But if he goes back and Enro's potential.
Yeah, Hamlin took probably up until about the last 5 races of the season to get back to who we know as Denny Hamlin. Picked up the win at Homestead. I think, kind of like what you said, Jason, now that he's healed up and ready to go, that he should be a pretty good force for the 2014 season.
And he'll have his JGR teammates in Caiaphas and Kendrick to help him. And so I think he's got a lot to work with this season, and he's going to be one of those guys that's going to come back this season to be stronger than before.
Yeah, definitely, especially if he can, gel a little bit more with Kenseth and take some knowledge from him. So, all right, I'm going to hit the button. There's actually not a button, but spoiler alert. Spoiler. We got one driver here that you're probably going to look at and be like, well, you didn't pick my driver, but you picked this guy to put him in the top 16. And so we're going to be a little off the wall because, we just needed one of those drivers in there. We're going to go with Marcos Ambrose next. Now, the new format has an emphasis on wins, and Ambrose, could very easily pick up a win at Watkins Glen, especially, or Sonoma. And, he's getting better at these oval tracks as the Richard Petty Motorsports team gets better all around. So he could definitely, steal one on a non-road course race, but I think after getting shut out last season at Watkins Glen, he's going to make it his mission to pick up the victory.
At Watkins Glen, I saw Ambrose's wreck race car sadly pulled back to the garage area, so I know he's going to be really excited to get back to Watkins Glen and put that wreck race car into victory lane and his new car for the season. And RPM, I believe they have a very good lineup going forward for this season. They've improved in a lot of areas. They're ready to take the next step to compete with these guys. And like you said, an oval track win for Ambrose is definitely coming. He's strong on those tracks. And I see him picking up a road course on along with an oval win. And he'll be in the chase. He might not make it too far, but the Aussie is going to be in the Sweet 16 this season.
I like that, coining the Sweet 16.
Yeah, stealing it from the NCAA basketball tournament, which everyone was filling out their chase grid brackets by the September. From that, making the chase is a difficult transition, but we believe Brad Keselowski's going to do that this season. Brad is very eager to get going. He wants to forget 2015. He wants to prove he's still worthy of being called a champion. Last season, he didn't really prove anything to anyone. We thought he'd come out very strong. He came out very weak. And for him to get back to his stellar form this year and prove why he won the champion race car driver he is will be important, because we know what Brad Keselowski can do, but it'll be up to him to show us what he will be doing this season.
Kind of what you said with Joey Logano. I think now that they've gotten a year with the Ford power plants and the Ford chassis and all that, they'll be a lot better off and they'll come out swinging. My biggest concern with Team Penske is, especially with the new penalties that were laid out 1 week ago, are they going to be apt to push the envelope? Because it really seemed like when they got busted at Texas, it kind of really deflated the team, and whether or not it actually impacted their, mechanical performance, but they kind of look like they lost a little bit of their mojo, or, they didn't have a bounce in their step after that point, and it really took them a long time, especially Keselowski took him into actually winning near the end of the season to actually get back to where he looked like he was in 2012 when he was the title winner.
Team Penske is going to be another one of the teams that's really going to benefit from the fresh start the new season brings, and they will be they don't have anything really changing from last year, so they've got everything set and they're ready and they know what to do, and I think they're going to have to go out and do it really strongly in 2014.
So continuity is very key to any team or driver success, and that's kind of leads us to the next driver. We have Ryan Newman making the top 16, and what's interesting about this year is Ryan Newman might be with a new team with Richard Childress Racing, But this is a fun fact. This is going to be the first time that he's going to a team that's already existed prior to him getting there. You know, if we think back to when he started with the aforementioned Team Penske back in the early 2000s, that was a team that was made for Newman. And even though they had existing teams, it was all new personnel. Everyone had to get together and gel. And then you flash forward to when he went to Stewart-Haas Racing. Again, it might have been a pre-existing car, so to speak, but they brought in all new people. They, you know, from head to toe, they had to rebuild everything. So he finally finds himself into a situation where he can just strap in the seat and go. And like what I said about Greg Biffle, you know, Newman's one of those guys who just lingers. He'll pick up a win every, you know, he was almost on pace for a win every year. You wouldn't think of Newman as a win-a-year type of guy, but he gets it done. He gets into the chase. Doesn't do much when he gets there, but he at least gets into it.
Once Newman gets to a new team, he always seems to win. I'm pretty sure when he first started Penske, he had a lot of victories in his first season in Stewart-Haas Racing. He picked up a lot of victories that season, so I expect him to be able to get the victories this season. We put him in the chase, so we expect him to pick up at least a victory or two, and he'll be the leader at RCR, Childress Racing this season, and I think that's big for Newman. He'll be able to help guys, help Austin, help Paul Menard, help them grow, and that, I think that'll bring some confidence in Newman, and he'll be able to be a little more confident in himself to go out there and get the job done, because he's telling other guys how to do it.
I really like the pairing of him and Luke Lambert, his crew chief. I like that pairing.
I think it's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how Newman can gel with him, if it gels right off the start, and if they can really develop something that will really work for them. And another driver who's got to develop something to work from right off the bat with a new crew chief is Kurt Busch at Stewart-Haas Racing. Kurt's got a completely new team, never existed prior to this season. He's with a whole new set of guys, new crew chief and Daniel Knaus, and he's kind of out to prove to see if he can't pull together this team and do some great things. And his career revival is going to really start with this team, and he has been very low, and now he's back up high, and the opportunities that present themselves, he'll have to treat them with a little more care than he did in the past if he wants to stick around. But I do see him being stronger than he was last year in the upcoming season.
Yeah, Kurt Busch is no stranger to change. This is going to be 3 teams in 3 years for him. Ever since 4 teams in 4 years for him. Ever since he got bounced out of Team Penske. But I agree with you that he's going to have to, you know, mind his P's and Q's. He can't really fly off the handle quite like he did with Phoenix, or quite like he even did with Furniture Row. Heat of the moment you can chalk it up to, but, you know, to try to, knowing that you're going to want to be with this organization for a good number of years, knowing that the owner really, really wanted you, you know, that's kind of a lot of pressure, and I don't know if he'll keep his fuse under control, especially with a brand new crew chief.
He's got to think before he acts, and if he can do that, I think he'll be set. He knows what not to do. He's learned his lesson and what not to do and what he can do to be able to do great things. He won the championship in 2004, so he knows how to get all that done. So he's just got to bring all the good up and put the good to use in his 2014 campaign.
If he can come out swinging, come out very strong at Daytona, I think that will do a world for him in that organization. Now, another car and another team, I should say, that knows that it's strong for 3/4 of the season is Kyle Busch. He's kind of surprised me last year when he actually finished second in the first 2 chase races and showed that he can actually, he doesn't go into hibernation during the fall. He does actually still race at that point. He kind of tapered off, but stayed in the conversation for most of the chase. Can he complete an entire year running up front in leading races? Still yet to be seen, but if you're going to put a point system in that counts wins to get you into the playoffs, then definitely you got to pencil Kyle Busch in there.
He's always great when it comes to wins, and he can win, and he can move guys out of the way for a win, so I expect him to be one of the series leading winners. And after the great 2013 season, he has a lot of confidence, and he learned a lot, especially in the chase. Before, they never really got too far in the chase. The team didn't, so they didn't really know how to go about it, how to treat the first few races. But now that they have had a successful start to the chase, they know they'll apply that to this season, and they'll learn what to do in the rest of the chase to be able to move forward and wants any success towards the title for 2014.
I just want to see a win in October for him. I think that would be very key for not only his championship hopes, but also confidence.
Oh, yeah. To win the championship, you need confidence, and Jimmy Johnson had that, Brad Keselowski had that, Tony Stewart had that. If we want to spot out a champion, you also look for some confidence, and one driver who had confidence going to the chase last year was definitely Matt Kenseth. Came off a phenomenal regular season with it's probably the most wins. You can't remember exactly, but for Kenseth to start off the season strong will be important. He didn't do that. Didn't do that last year at Daytona or Phoenix, but if he can start off those two races strong and build some confidence and work towards putting together a whole season and not just winning and then finishing 15th the other races he doesn't win. He can put together a whole season. He won't be able to repeat the success that he did last year, but I see him not completely shutting down, but probably doing mediocre towards this season, but he'll definitely be in the chase and contending for a good part of the season.
Easy to put him into the chase. He's going to get wins. I agree with you. It might not be 7 like last year, but it's definitely going to be, a handful of wins for Kenseth. The thing I don't like is, and I've talked about this before, is kind of the second place hangover. And last year, Clint Boyer turned in the best finish in the last, I want to say, it's either between 5 and 10 years. The person who's finished second place hasn't done any better than 6th the following year, and that was just done by Clint Boyer. So it'll be interesting to see if Kenseth can kind of buck that trend. I could definitely see him being a driver who could do that, but then again, I also said Carl Edwards was going to win the chase, and how did that work out?
Yeah, and the trend has really been second place drivers not having as great a season the year after, so Kenseth seems like a driver who can break that trend, but we also saw that on Boyer last year, so anything can happen. Kenseth's season really could go either way.
So expectations will be high for Matt Kenseth, and actually our next driver, I've kind of put high expectations on ever since he came over to Hendrick Motorsports, and that's Casey Kane. You just figure the pairing of him and Kenny Francis was a known commodity that's won races. Going to the Hendrick organization would be a no-brainer, but he keeps coming up short in his championship bids, so I think he's due for a big year, especially now that he won't get handicapped like he did in years prior with getting into the chase through the wild card, and I think this is definitely Francis and Kane's time to go for the title.
It is definitely their time to shine, and if they can do that, they'll be successful, and they just have to play everything together. They have the resources, they have the experience, they just have to go out and perform and display their talent on the Sprint Cup Series level. If they can do that, they'll be successful and probably contending for the title once the chase comes.
I just, like a lot of people, I want to see a couple more wins out of them. Then we can really talk title.
They've got to go for victories, and getting more than their usual two will be very important. And another driver who's going to have to win this season is going to be Dale Earnhardt Jr., even though he would have been considered the champion last year under the new chase system. I think he still has to go after wins this year because he never know, he may not get in the chase without winning. So he's going to have to shoot for wins. I don't know what to expect out of him this season. I'm not really expecting him to be a title contender. I know he's been really running really well lately, but for him to really put everything together, I don't know if he's really capable of doing that right now. And the crew chief thing with Steve Letarte going to NBC after the season, a lot of people say that won't affect him, but you never know if he gets wrapped up in thinking he wants to get Steve Letarte that championship, and then he doesn't perform, and then he gets mad at himself, and then he doesn't put himself in their position to win the championship. That could really hurt him, and so I think if he can go out and win, he'll be set for this season, but if he can't do that, it's going to be a tough season for Junior Nation.
That's a very good point. I wasn't even think of how down he could get if he's not performing to the level that he thinks he should be with Steve Letarte. It'll be interesting to see if they can pick up the momentum that they had from last season, where they just absolutely crushed it the last 9 races of the season. They just had that one engine failure to start the chase that buried them, and they couldn't get out of that hole. So a strong start, like most people, is going to be the key for Dale Earnhardt Jr., but I'll use this to kind of springboard off that I think he's going to be fine with whomever they select as Letard's replacement, because they're going to use Steve Letard. They're going to use Junior. They're going to, the brain powers that be at Hendrick are going to come about the decision for the replacement crew chief a lot better than, someone gets fired and then you got to quickly just pick someone in the shop to fill in.
It'll definitely be really interesting to see who they choose, because there's not really a big name that you can really choose from. There's not really a big guy right now at Hendrick that'll be like, this guy is probably high profile, he can work with him. The only idea I was thinking about, Hendrick has made drastic switches before, and they've plenty partners, Dale Jr. and Steve Letard. If Rick Hendrick takes Chad Knaus away from Jimmy Johnson and puts him with Dale Earnhardt Jr., NASCAR will explode, but you never know if that could bring Junior to the level he should be at right now in his career.
Well, there is an experienced past champion crew chief at Hendrick Motorsports that just gave up his TV contract for 2014 to work more with Hendrick Motorsports in Ray Evernham.
Yeah, he is an option, but if we're going to reference Marty McGee again, they said that he would absolutely never take a job with another crew chief job. Apparently, he wasn't the nicest of guys when he was working as crew chief with Jeff Gordon, and he really hated himself at that point. So you never know if he'll play himself through that course again. But you never know if he brings the idea of himself, that could happen.
Well, it sounds like he's going to have a lot of time to think about it, but as important as crew chief driver pairings are, I think probably the best pairing or new pairing for 2014 is going to be Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers. I think Childers is very underrated, kind of like Paul Wolfe. He was able to win with Brian Vickers last year. He did amazing things with that 55 Toyota for Michael Waltrip Racing. Now he comes to an organization that in theory should be a lot more stable than where he came from, with a lot more resources at his disposal, including Hendrick Motorsports chassis and engines. And with Harvick, who will have that proverbial monkey or weight off his shoulders, and he can just come and drive and not worry about all the petty little things that was getting him down at RCR, before he left. I think they can do amazing things next year, and a lot of people think that.
As much as the opportunity is there for new great things, I just don't see him doing as great as he's done the last few years. I think he'll be really similar. He'll be better than Joe Logano last year, but this season will be similar. He might not have the greatest of starts, but he'll get rolling by the end of the season and mid-season. He'll pick up a few wins. He'll be in a chase, but you never know if he can. Maybe he can't pull off a great overall phenomenal season and contend for the championship, but we saw Matt Kenseth do that last year. I think that's just a once-in-a-lifetime thing we'll see, and I'm not sure Harvick will be of the same caliber. And if he does contend for the championship, he's going to have to contend with the final guy in our top 16 list, and that is Jimmy Johnson. Coming off his sixth title, Johnson is really excited to get back to contend for 7 or 11 for 7, which I think is a really cool hashtag some fans came up with. He'll be going after his 7th championship, and it's going to be historic if he can do it, but he's going to have to overcome the change. But his team, he and Chad Knaus have been good at change before, so I expect Johnson to do some pretty great things, and he may just be my championship pick for 2014 season.
It's very hard to argue with the track record of Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus and that whole Hendrick Motorsports team. It's very hard not to make them your early season championship pick, just because he's Jimmy Johnson. This new format that puts emphasis on winning, that's no big deal. Johnson wins, multiple races every year. The only thing he might run into with that new format, which we'll get into in just a second here, is the freak finishes late in the year that lead to him getting bounced out before his time, or the fact that Homestead isn't that great of a racetrack for him, so coming down to that track and that track alone for the title could be an issue for him. But yeah, it's hard not to pick someone who's won 6 championships.
And I think he'll just be as good as he always is, so that'll be really interesting to see what he does once the chase comes, see if he can fit in with the chase format, which I expect him to do, to see if he can really contend at a level everyone knows he is capable of.
and he's such a competitor, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got quite the chip on his shoulder, that, the feeling that NASCAR has changed the rules to try to keep him from winning. And guess what, Jason? Now we're going to get into how NASCAR changed those rules. Well, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty, but we've had 3-4 weeks to kind of digest the new chase, the 16 drivers, the eliminations after every 3 races, and then the final, sprint to the finish at Homestead. And I'm kind of at the same crossroads that I was just a couple days afterwards. I see where NASCAR is trying to go with this. I don't like it as a traditionalist, but I understand that you got to kind of evolve to keep competitive in this world, so I'm not harping on it too much. But I just don't see how racing can fit into this format. Just because the idea that if you have a cut and dry winner loser, you can kind of do a win-based playoff system. But since there's one winner and 42 losers, so to speak, it's hard to justify that winning is the end-all be-all, in my terminology, for it, because you have so many other people out there that the variable's not 50-50, it's whatever 1 divided by 40 is. But I don't know, I that's why I like more consistency-based point standings, but that's just me.
To appeal to the really audience fans that are trying to go after, to the new fans, to the really sports fans, they have to make it about winning. In all other sports, it's not really about consistency, it's about wins, and those are the fans NASCAR's hoping to attract. And by putting everything about winning, they hope that those fans will realize how exciting it is, and wins are supposed to make it more exciting. I think they will with gambles towards the end of the races. So, and a all goal. I'm gonna say that again. Could you delete that out after?
Sure.
A go for broke winning system is going to bring excitement. It's going to bring really a different feel to the end of the races. That really who's going to win? You never know if some strategy is going to be played. So it's going to be exciting to see it be produced this season. And I'm all for it. I think this is one of the best changes NASCAR could have made.
And I'm not going to be totally a Debbie Downer on this system, because I like the eliminations. I like the idea of not only eliminating people, but then also kind of resetting things to get well, do they reset?
Yeah, it'll be reset after every round. Drivers will be completely reset, and they'll be all tied, and then do as best as you can and see what we can, if you can, get to the next round.
So, I really like that aspect of it. I think that that's something that the chase should have started with, and I'm going to agree with you. Not only is the excitement going to be, for these races, people are going to take more gambles, but then also when it comes to the elimination races, especially Talladega being one of the races, you're going to see some crazy stuff at the end of the race. You're not going to see people just sitting back and riding if they know they got to get to a certain point to advance in the playoff system.
You will also see a beginning of the race and mid-race, a very laid-back race as the drivers right on the edge don't want to go risk it, don't want to get in a wreck early, get eliminated from the chase, and you will see them pretty calm in that towards times for most of that Talladega race until the end when it gets crazy. But one race, it will be, you want to jump into the next round now, or you want to say some more stuff about the chase.
And it'll be interesting to see how drivers, once they get their first wins of the year, if they'll kind of attack the races a little differently. I would think that you get one win, sure, you should be in, but it's not a guarantee. Maybe if you start racking up 2-3 wins, you can maybe, I guess, do a little testing, so to speak. Try a couple different things at some of the chase races, or the same tracks that are running the chase, and you can kind of gamble that way, but I don't foresee anyone just totally mailing in a race or anything like that, because they're guaranteed.
They might come to the situation where if they win early in the season, and then they really don't have too much worry about, if they're pretty consistent, if they have one race, one bad race, it doesn't really matter, they're in the chase, they're all set. So they might not worry as much about bad races after they win, but it could be interesting to see if one driver wins early, doesn't really care too much about some, like a month or so of the season, and gets really close on the edge to the chase. But there'll probably be guys who just go out for wins every week, and will try to get in as many as quick as possible to guarantee themselves a spot in the chase. So less worrying will have to come once Richmond gets closer.
Now, what's your take on the winner-take-all finale at Homestead? Good idea? Bad idea?
I'm all for it. I think it's going to bring such a great atmosphere to the sport and a really huge Super Bowl feeling. There's 4 drivers. There's no previous points to tell who will finish best, will get the championship. So a overall run finishes, highest wins is something that'll just be overall exciting. And throughout the race, it's just going to be a bunch of variables deciding how it's going to finish out and seeing which drivers will make the in-race gambles to put themselves in that position to win the championship. And there'll be nothing decided going in. It'll be one race, one championship decided, and that's how other sports are, and they do really well. I think this will be a really great move for NASCAR.
You don't worry about the perceived notion of manufactured drama that, you know, making a Game 7 moment kind of hurts the appeal of it in the long run?
Of course, I see that, and I think that's what NASCAR is trying to do, but with its Super Bowl, that hype is always there. It's going to be a big moment, even if the game, like the Seahawks Broncos game, that game wasn't great, but the atmosphere and the Game 7 moment still felt that way during the game, and anything can happen, and the storyline's going in, and I think NASCAR is going to get that no matter what, because other sports, because football does too, and the drama, you will see drama, drama play out like the Super Bowl does sometimes, but of course it seems like it's manufactured, but really it's going to come no matter what.
I do agree. I think having that element of drama makes it a lot more interesting, kind of makes the buzz a little bit better. And this goes back to what I opened with, is I see exactly what NASCAR is going for, and this is it. You know, you don't want to go into the final race and have nothing to talk about because Jimmy Johnson's already wrapped it up. You want to get the media, you want casual fans to tune in and say, hey, whatever happens during this race decides it all. It's not predetermined.
Yeah, I think we should move on from that. I think we did it really good.
Well, we'll see it play out in only about 9 months.
Yeah, it's closer than we expect, but what is really close is the Sprint Unlimited Saturday. It's going to be coming up really soon. We're going to see the cars on the track. The race is going to start again. And I know a lot of drivers are pumped up. Fans are pumped up. Everyone's excited to see the racing start again. And the 3 drivers I'm really looking forward to seeing, because I think they'll do well, are Kevin Harvick, Tony Stewart, and Kyle Busch. All 3 are always good in this event, and they know how to race their play races, and I think they'll be around towards the end and really be competing heavily for that victory, and it's a winner-take-all event, so all 3 of those guys could really make a move at the end to get that win that doesn't really matter, but it'll bring them a lot of pride.
Hey, we're going 1 out of 3. My 3 would be who to watch would be Kevin Harvick, whom you said, Jimmy Johnson, just because you can't discount what Jimmy Johnson does. Restrictor plates at Daytona. Plus, he seems to really like money, so he's usually good at winning these events. And then Jamie McMurray would have to be, if I was to kind of pull out a wild card, he's better at restrictor plates than I think most people think of. Don't really think of him as a restrictor plate racer, but, he's got a bunch of wins at Talladega. He won the Daytona 500 in 2010. I would say Jamie McMurray if you wanted a, kind of a dark horse out there.
Yeah, he's always a really, really great pick, and I know he's always good at Daytona. I remember him winning a few of those July races, and that was really cool. But I'm going to lead into the favorite memory, but through that, so I'll just jump into it.
Okay.
The Sprint Unlimited is always one of the biggest event stuff this season, and we always enjoy getting to the start of the season, and those always come with memories throughout the season, which memories we really like best. And my favorite memory from the Unlimited was about shootout. It's not really on the track memory, but when it was named the shootout, and drivers would select pole or the qualifying spots out of the beer bottles, and that was always one of my favorite events I get to watch Thursday night before the race, and it was always cool to catch up with the drivers before the season started and see what they did with the off season and see where they'll start. It's just a random draw, and that was always one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I'm going to go along the same lines, and again, we didn't really discuss this ahead of time, but I'm not going with any year. I'm just going back to imagine, if you will, with me, Jason, because this might be a little hard for you to imagine, but there used to be a time where we didn't have instant information all the time, and you really kind of didn't know what the new paint schemes were going to look like. You didn't really know, who exactly filled out with what team. So I started, when I saw this question, going back to, that excitement and anticipation when it was like, wow, the cars are finally on track, and wow, that driver's paired up with that team, or do you see that paint job? Just kind of that excitement of, it's a new year, kind of the introduction or the beginning of Days of Thunder's playing in my head with the sunset coming up and the excitement building, and it really just starts the craziness of the 38 weeks that is the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. But you know what? It's a good craziness.
I really hate to make you feel old, but I do not remember that time when it was like that. But it's always interesting to see everything new. We already know what the new stuff will be, but just to see it play, we're really excited.
But you know what? The good time about the olden days, before instant information, is you actually knew who was going to be in what series and ahead of time, instead of this nonsense. I was trying to do the Truck and Nationwide Series previews not knowing what half the people were doing this year. But something I know the Sprint Cup Series drivers will be doing this weekend after the Sprint Unlimited on Saturday is going to be pole qualifying for the Daytona 500. Even though we got new qualifying rules out there, we're still going to keep the old standard Daytona 500 rules where on Sunday they're going to try to qualify the top 2 drivers, and then we'll have the duels, and then we'll make our starting lineup from there. So going with our 3 theme, we each were tasked with coming up with 3 drivers that we should watch during pole qualifying. So in no particular order, I'm going to go Jimmy Johnson again. He's got a couple poles there at Daytona. He's got a strong hot rod, and again, going back to, he just excels at Daytona all of a sudden, and you can't count him out. I'm going to say kind of a little bit of a wild card is Kyle Busch. I don't recall him starting up front too far at Daytona, but he's a driver who needs, big momentum start to the season for him. And then my other pick is Dale Earnhardt Jr. He loves restrictor plate racing. There's no better place for him to be than starting on the pole for the 500.
My 3, I have one in common with you. I have Jimmy Johnson. He's always strong and he's fast. His team likes to concentrate on the single car run for Daytona. I think that will really benefit them, and they'll be fast, as well as Austin Dillon. He was fast during testing, and I know that those RCR cars are always pretty fast, so they'll be one to watch. And finally, I have Greg Biffle. Those Ford cars always seem to be fast at Daytona, especially in qualifying, and he's the one guy I feel has a great chance to get that pole, and it'll be a really good story to see Biffle win, because he's not the guy that always wins the pole, and he'll get some attention that not everyone ever always gets to start off the season.
I really like that Austin Dillon pick. Dang. I wish I would have picked him.
It will be another pretty big storyline if he wins the pole to stop. A rookie wins the pole, Dan Patrick. A rookie wins the pole, Burner's a little bigger, but it'll be interesting. When this weekend comes up, it'll be the first race weekend of the season, which ends our boring weekends that have been going on since late November. And I know my schedule changed a lot, and so Mike. So we want to give you guys a update on what our weekends look like now that the season is going off of that. Mine is going to involve a lot less time to do my work, my schoolwork, which sometimes has to come as a priority. It's hard to get that in between the races, but it's going to be a little busier for me, and it'll be fun to watch some racing and do some homework at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going to, kind of along the same lines as Jason, just being a little bit more active with the site. I got the Race View audio package I'm going to purchase from NASCAR.com, so I can always listen to the chatter going on in the track, stay connected with it. But yeah, just basically carving out that time to watch these races and keep up on the news and the practices and the qualifying, and then take a couple days off and then get ready to do it again in the next week. Keep the crazy circus continuing.
Yes, definitely. And a great place to catch up with all the news is on Twitter. And you can follow us both. Follow Mike at Start Park Blog, and I'm at NASCAR Jason. We'll be tweeting all week. Articles, news, pictures, everything you can imagine. To get us everyone excited for the season, because the season is starting, and we are right around the corner from the start of a new season, and a season full of opportunities and a bunch of unexpected things are likely coming our way.
Season of change. But you know what?
Yes.
Change is good.
I like change.
And I like the fact that we made it through the first Fan3Cast.
Yes.
Congratulations. Insert a round of applause. All right, until next week, NASCAR Nation.
Thanks for listening to the Fan3Cast. For more NASCAR coverage, check out StartingParkBlog.com and Turn4RacingNews.com. Follow along on Twitter at Fan3Cast, at StartingParkBlog, and at NASCAR Jason.